A political earthquake just hit the Labour Party, and the shockwaves are tearing through Westminster. An explosive revolt has erupted from within, and now Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves have been pushed into full-blown desperate defence mode just to keep control of their own MPs. Chaos behind closed doors, shifting statements, frantic briefings, and a growing group of Labour MPs edging dangerously close to outright mutiny. For a party that claimed unity, this is the moment the cracks became impossible to hide. MPs whispering, the leadership has failed. Policies are collapsing, the public is angry, and so are we. Starmer's tough leader image? It's starting to crumble. Reeves is scrambling too, every press conference looks like firefighting, every interview sounds like damage control. And the most dangerous part? This mutiny isn't slowing down. So what comes next? A leadership collapse? Mass MP walkouts? A full-blown split in Labour? Whatever happens, UK politics is no longer calm. This storm is only just beginning. There are moments in politics when the ground shifts not slowly, but violently, suddenly, without warning. Moments when a party claiming unity finds itself standing on fractured ground. For the Labour Party, that moment arrived on a cold Wednesday morning, when whispers of discontent transformed into a full-scale revolt. Inside Parliament, the tension was sharp enough to feel in the air. Staffers rushed between offices with sealed folders, journalists crowded outside committee rooms, and aides exchanged nervous glances that told a story louder than any headline. The revolt had begun. Keir Starmer, who had built his brand on discipline, control, and forensic leadership, suddenly faced the one thing he had tried to avoid since the day he took office, a mutiny brewing inside his own party. Rachel Reeves, his chancellor, his ally, and his closest political partner, found herself in equal danger. A storm swirled around her too, as MPs questioned her economic strategy, her tone, and her priorities. Within hours, both leaders were thrust into desperate defensive mode. To understand how the Labour Party reached this breaking point, we must go back, before the explosion, before the rebellion, to the slow build-up of pressure that had been ignored for far too long. On the surface, Labour appeared stable. National polls were favourable, the media largely supportive, and the party seemed to have finally left behind the factional chaos of previous years. But beneath the polished exterior, resentment was growing. And it started with one thing: policy drift. MPs complained, quietly at first, that the leadership was moving too cautiously on major issues: public spending, immigration, housing, and foreign policy. Some believed Starmer was trying too hard to appear centrist, others thought Reeves was too restrained, too controlled, too aligned with the Treasury orthodoxy. Meetings behind closed doors became increasingly heated. One MP described it as a pressure cooker waiting for someone to lift the lid. Another, more bluntly, they think they can run the party from two offices and ignore the rest of us. They're wrong. The leadership shrugged off early signs. They believed the storm would never grow large enough to matter. They were mistaken. The first sign of real danger came during what was meant to be a routine policy briefing. Rachel Reeves unveiled an economic proposal that she expected would win applause. Instead, it triggered fury. A group of Labour MPs, mostly backbenchers, but not all, challenged her projections, her spending limits, and her refusal to commit to major social investments. According to one eyewitness, she walked into that meeting confident, and walked out looking shaken. Within a week, the whisper spread. MPs began calling one another, forming small clusters of dissent. This was no longer frustration, this was organization. And organization is the early heartbeat of a revolt. Still, the leadership believed it could contain the anger. They held private talks, issued carefully worded statements, and reassured allies. But the MPs weren't buying it. They were tired of reassurances. What they wanted was change. Every political revolt has a trigger, a spark that sets off an explosion. For Labour, it was the leak. An internal memo, circulated between senior advisors, was published by a major news outlet. It revealed deep concerns within the leadership about managing non-cooperative MPs and referred to several of them as internal risks. The phrase infuriated backbenchers. One MP said, "They treated us like liabilities. Not colleagues. Not representatives. Liabilities." Another said, "This was the moment unity died." Within hours, phones rang non-stop. Group chats lit up. Emails flooded inboxes. A meeting was arranged, unofficial, unplanned, and unsanctioned by party leadership. The revolt had moved from whispers to organization. And the leadership felt the first real shock of panic. Keir Starmer attempted to retake control of the narrative. His advisors urged him to stay calm, to avoid confrontation, to present unity. But Starmer had one major weakness: in moments of pressure, he retreats inward. Rather than address the MPs directly, he scheduled a televised interview, hoping that public messaging would calm the waters. It did the opposite. His tone appeared dismissive. His phrasing was vague. His attempt to assert authority felt defensive. One MP publicly responded, "If he wants to lead, he needs to turn around and face us, not the cameras." For the first time since taking leadership, Starmer looked like he was losing control. While Starmer battled the political narrative, Rachel Reeves faced a different kind of attack, an intellectual one. Economists criticized her policy caution. Backbenchers accused her of being too aligned with establishment thinking. Left-leaning MPs claimed she was neglecting public investment. Reeves entered a committee hearing expecting technical questions. Instead, she faced a barrage of political fury. They questioned her spending caps, her taxation plans, her refusal to support major reforms. Her response was calm, measured, but beneath the surface, she was cracking. A journalist present that day later wrote, "Reeves answered every question, but the room felt mutinous. The mood was heavy. The tension was sharp. You could feel the rebellion forming in real time." The MPs who had been whispering informally now created what they called the Concerned Parliamentarians Group. It sounded harmless. It wasn't. Within 48 hours, the group had grown larger than the leadership expected. They began holding shadow meetings, drafting letters, preparing statements. One MP said, "This is not a coup. This is accountability." Another countered, "Call it what you want. It's a mutiny." Starmer and Reeves knew that if the group reached a certain size, it could call for a leadership challenge. They were now in dangerous territory. The MPs who had been whispering informally now created what they called the Concerned Parliamentarians Group. It sounded harmless. It wasn't. Within 48 hours, the group had grown larger than the leadership expected. They began holding shadow meetings, drafting letters, preparing statements. One MP said, "This is not a coup. This is accountability." Another countered, "Call it what you want. It's a mutiny." Starmer and Reeves knew that if the group reached a certain size, it could call for a leadership challenge. They were now in dangerous territory. Starmer finally decided to confront the MPs directly. A meeting was arranged, a large one. It was meant to restore order. It did not. MPs spoke over one another. Some shouted. Some demanded apologies. Others demanded policy shifts. Starmer attempted to steer the discussion, but the emotion in the room overwhelmed his structured approach. One MP stood and said, "You've stopped listening. That's why we're here." Another added, "Leadership means engagement, not avoidance." Reeves, sitting beside him, intervened carefully, defending her policies, explaining her decisions, but she too faced relentless criticism. By the end of the meeting, the leadership had managed only one thing: survival. But survival is not victory. Survival is delay. 2 days later, something unexpected happened. A senior MP, one known for loyalty, one who had defended the leadership for years, publicly voiced doubts. He didn't call for resignation. He didn't attack. But he questioned direction. It was enough. His words legitimized the revolt. What was once a backbench rebellion now looked like a party-wide uprising. That evening, journalists surrounded Starmer's car, shouting questions he refused to answer. Inside his office, advisors argued about strategy. Should they fight? Should they negotiate? Should they reshuffle? Every option carried risk, and the clock was ticking.